Well, let me, before I forget, Seneca has this about 25, 30 page essay called On the Shortness of Life. And you would think that he's talking about how short life is, but the essay is actually quite the opposite. He says that life, for anyone who understands life really, 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 really well, like Jesus, life is really, really long. Because you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you have this ridiculous idea that if you do the same thing over again, the results are going to be different. And so this ridiculous hope lives inside you. You keep eating food in hopes of getting thinner. You keep eating like hamburgers in hope of lowering your cholesterol. You keep drinking alcohol in hopes of not becoming an alcoholic. And that's what Seneca is talking about, that if life is long life is short only for those who don't really know how to live it. For someone like Jesus Christ who knows what life is all about and knows what exactly he needs to share and comes to realize that no one is interested, he says, this is a huge burden on my shoulder. I don't want to live to be 70. I can't carry, and I don't want to carry all the stuff. And I don't want to invest time in people only to be disappointed, because people eventually will disappoint. How many Jesus Christ can you find in this world? None, just one maybe. And he died some 2,000 years ago. How many Muhammads can you find? So these are really, really like rare gifts. There is this plant that lives in certain parts of the Sahara Desert. It's called the century plant. The century plant is kind of pushed around by the wind. It has no roots. It goes wherever the wind goes. Now, and when you look at it, it looks dead. It doesn't wither away, it doesn't like break apart and slowly disintegrate. It remains intact. It's like a ball, it just goes wherever the wind blows. And then if it's touched by a drop of water, because once in a while, every century or so, the desert will experience like a day or two of rain. All of a sudden, this plant comes to life. It's an amazing plant. For like 99 years, you're dry. You look dead. Water hits you. You have flowers coming out of you. And then like a couple hours later, you go back to being dead again. Okay. And Jesus kind of looks at us and says, no, people are for the most part dead. Yeah, I inspire them like rain, and they come to life and then they go back to being dead. I don't want that. I want someone who's like me, always alive, always passionate, always authentic. So when you ask about why is it that people desire to live a long life, or they have this hope, or even though their life is not going anywhere, or if they're consumed by pain, why is it they want to continue? Well, aside from the biological, there is the hopefulness of it. That yes, I'm in pain, but hopefully there'll be a remedy. That maybe you're just waiting for closure. I don't really know what goes inside someone who can no longer talk, a lot of pain, what they're hoping for, So that's a mystery I can't really get involved because I don't really know much about it. I'm sure that, soon, once I get a little bit older, perhaps a little bit more sicker, I'll find myself in the same position. And then I'll get a better understanding. So you can come visit me when I'm almost sick and dead, and then I'll tell you. As to your question, Lena, about emotional intelligence, about 10 years ago, this man had a garage sale. In his garage sale, he had a framed map of the United States. It looked really, really old, but he had a garage sale, so he sold the map for $25. The guy takes it home, removes it from the frame, wants to restore it a little, and he looks at the date, and it goes all the way back to 17 something or 18 something, and he takes it to some store, and they ultimately offered him about $7 million for the map, and he sold it. Just because you have something, it doesn't mean that you know what you have. Right now you have your health, but it doesn't mean that you have full appreciation of your health. It just means that you have your health. Okay? All of us have emotions. Without emotions, you can't survive. But it doesn't mean, and emotions have intelligence. Intelligence in the sense that, let's say your father snaps at you and you become very, very passive. And it's good that your temperament and your emotions, they all come together to make you passive. Why? Well, because in some ways you don't want to snap back at your father. He's about 20 years older than you are. You know, you don't have the wisdom and the experience that your father has. Maybe you truly did something wrong and it's the only way he could have kind of inspired you to kind of think. Now, something may have an innate amount of intelligence, but that's not sufficient for us. You need to actually understand the sort of intelligence that live inside emotions. Now, to give you an example, Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is a Roman emperor. He has a tendency of, after going to war and destroying people's lives, cities and villages and all that, he goes back to his tent and he writes in his journal, what's the use of killing all these people? What's the use of making Rome a bigger empire? For what? Well, if he had started, the flip side, first start with the journal and then go out there and try to kill people, you realize it's nearly impossible. He started doing this around the age 50, I think. Why would people write about these experiences at such an old age? First, because they have everything. There is boredom involved. There is not knowing what to do with boredom, but you're in the habit of going around and killing people and taking their lands and their women and their children. Okay? And the story of Marcus Aurelius is this. You will do what you will do. No one is going to stop you. You will have your addictions, you will have your habits, you will have your assumptions, until, like Marcus Aurelius, you turn to be 50 or 60 or 70. Then you sit and you begin to examine your life. I mean, really, really examine it. Like you take your car in for a tune-up, And then you realize most of the things that you have done, maybe beneficial, maybe not so beneficial. And from examination, you will gain some intelligence. The other thing, because of just the way I am, I like to break things open. If you really want to understand something, you got to break it open. I don't mind, going to the board and breaking open the emotion of love or anger or resentment. That's something I would enjoy. But if you were to come to my office and say, Amir, I'm going through A, B, C, D, can we sit and look at this together? I would probably say no. Because my interest in emotions are far more than my interest in you as a person. First, because most of this stuff you can probably get in books. Second, life will teach you. Third, you're far too young to kind of take this stuff seriously in the right way. And then I'm no longer 20, 30, 40, 50. So I become very, very careful of where I want to invest my time and energy. It's nothing about you. It's mostly about me. Yeah. Julian, anything?
I had a question.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
I was watching the lecture. lot of higher stage. And get out and you realize that you want. That those are where your priorities are. And find someone that's how do you know that you're
You will never know, first of all. If I was to tell you, I'll buy you a ticket to Iran, go there. People like us in this room, they just speak a different language. The culture may be a little different. The buildings may be a little different. The sort of emotions that live inside people may be a little different, but I think you'll survive. The truth is you won't. It's going to take you about a few months to adjust. And I think anything that is unknown to you, unfamiliar to you, because you're dealing with, we enjoy habits, we enjoy routine because it gives us power. It allows us to become familiar with our environment. And when you become familiar, you know where to go, where not to go, okay? Right now you're single, let's just say. Okay? And forgive me, Zion, I know you are in a relationship, but I'm just going to use you as an example. That's okay? Okay. Imagine you want to go out with her. She's attractive, you're attracted to her, she's attracted to you. You say, do you want to go out? She says yes. Now, right now, your single life, you may not like it, but you know what waits for you after this class. You know where you're going to go for lunch. You know who you want to hang out friend-wise, right? Little by little, your attraction for Zion grows. Now, you've never experienced love. And I don't want to put this stuff on the board, but after 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, you find yourself to be obsessed. You just want to be around her all the time. Now, this is a place you've never been, which means what? Emotionally, you're going to be consumed. And these emotions are going to throw you left and right. You're going to say, well, she told me she's going to call at 9. It's like 9:01. Then it's 9:10. Then your mom says dinner is ready and you scream, I'm not hungry. I will never be hungry. I hate your food, right? And these are things you've never said. These are things you never felt or experienced or shared. But all of a sudden, because of her, you begin to kind of act a little nutty. Now, you also realize little by little, you have a very strong personality. But now that you've met her, now that you've fallen for her, she's like walking all over you. And then you look yourself in the mirror and say, Julian, you used to be strong. You used to kind of just do the things that you wanted to do. What the hell is happening to you? Now you have the conflict. Another unfamiliar territory, let's say all of that passes and the both of you are profoundly comfortable with one another. Now, she's African American. You're of a different race, which means that she's going to bring components that are unfamiliar to you. You're going to bring components that are unfamiliar to her. That's going to take some time to adjust. Okay. Now, the thing about attraction is that you're going to use her body, she's going to use your body. There comes a point, and remember, both of you are relatively young, there comes a point where sex is no longer as interesting. Now you want to take her out in that perhaps, conversation. You realize that it's really, really difficult to kind of have a conversation that's meaningful for you. And you want to pull her up towards meaningful conversation, but she doesn't want to. Or maybe she wants to pull you up towards a meaningful conversation, but you don't want to. Now, what has glued the two of you together is the fact that you know her, you're familiar with her, you're comfortable with her, and you've had lots of sex. I mean, these are the glue, okay? And even though you guys don't really have great conversations, it doesn't mean that the glue is finished. You're still bonded quite tightly. Now, you try to manufacture all sorts of things. Let's go to church. Let's watch a movie like Freedom Writers, okay? Let's do things that are meaningful for her. And she comes to realize, well, you like to smoke a little, you like to hang out with your useless friends or watch useless movies, and then she gets stuck. What am I supposed to do with this guy? I like him. In fact, I love him. He's just a bit of an idiot. Okay. And then she happens to be at a stage where she looks at it and she says, let's have a family. thinking that you're ready for fatherhood. She's experienced it. You're not even ready to have a meaningful conversation, but she assumes that you're ready for fatherhood. Okay? There are a couple of things you need to know about relationships before I go on with this nonsense. This is the stuff I put on the board last week, Tuesday. No. Whether you are with Zion or whether you're interested in buying a jacket or taking another class or doing your master's or a PhD, everything begins with a sense of attraction. Everything does, under the sun. Have you read the Gospel of Matthew? Blessed are the poor in spirit. This is a very, very, very advanced stage. See, you may be poor in your body. You may be poor in emotions because you've been neglected. You may be poor in intellect, and these are things that you can know. You know, you walk into a relationship, your husband will say, or wife will say, can you think about this a little bit more clearly? And she's basically saying that your intellectual, world is very, very poor. You need to go read. You need to think. Okay? If you're sick, you go to Kaiser. If you've been neglected, you go see a therapist. And remember, the world down here is going to occupy you for a long, long time, if not your entire life. To get to a place where you feel as if you actually do have a spirit and it's been neglected, and now you want it back, first you need to understand that no one comes to the spirit by themselves. You have to be blessed. And blessing means here you are. Here is someone who has power. You go to your mom, say, Mom, can I get $10? Because she likes you, she blesses you with $10. Okay? So when it comes to this thing, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, something about you that's not connected to your physical body, to your emotional body, to your psychological body, if you have any traumas, to your intellectual body, all these will be gone on the cross, and this will come forth. And you realize that you have zero things there. You have a lot of longing and yearning that the world can't satisfy. Then you go look for someone or something that can bless you. Right? So everything under the sun begins with an attraction. Attraction turns into desire. Desire turns into want. Want turns into need. Whenever you need something, you go on a long journey. This is the desert life, filled with struggle. And you need resources to survive this. Then you get Zion. See, right now, she doesn't know you like her, but you're attracted to her. And as you keep looking at her, you'll begin to desire her. There is a good amount of hope and dreams and fantasizing in this world. You ask her out for a cup of coffee. That takes courage. Okay? Then you say, I really want to have a chat with her. I want to take her out for coffee. I want to take her out for food. You want her. There comes a point where you wake up and you say, I really need her. I can't sleep without her. She hasn't called me. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't rest. I'm always pissed off because I need her and she's not around. Now, the need creates a good amount of poverty. Poverty equals desert. No one and no thing can nourish you except Zion. That's the thing you need to understand about desert life. Okay? Eventually, if you're lucky, she'll say, I love you. And you'll say, I love you back. Once you get what you were attracted to, whether you want to or not, there comes a place where you're satisfied. She said yes, you guys had coffee, then you had Zachary's, and you spent a lot of time together, and then you went to Italy and back. Now you say to her, I just want to go for a walk by myself. Then you come back home, you look at her and you realize you're no longer attracted. You don't even desire her or want her or need her. It doesn't mean that you want to toss her in the trash, but it does suggest that now she creates boredom for you. Okay? And the moment boredom comes, the value becomes a zero, unless you can kind of entertain yourself with her in some way. This is a very, very difficult place to be, to look her in the eye and see your own reflection and realize you have no passion for her. It's a devastating place to be, and you've built a life with her. Now, when boredom comes, you're in the cradle of frustration. And remember, boredom, you don't have any power to fix it. You can't look at Zion and say, I want to be attracted to her once again. I mean, you can go to Hawaii, sure. You can't take her to the park. You can do all sorts of tricks, but this is not going to go anywhere. And once there is boredom, frustration comes in. Then you get confused. What are you doing? And if you're not careful, you'll just be angry all the time because you don't want to go home, and yet you have to go home. And who's going to be home? She's going to be home. Are you going to like it? No. And then you say, my home feels more like a cage, like a prison. This is how life is. Everything about life. Which means the following. Whenever you find yourself bored and ultimately in the cradle of anger, you're always going to be alone. Always. You start with this, you live in this, and you end life with this. Now, your question is this. Here I am in the silver stage. Here is my companion who is in the iron stage. And I want to pull her up to silver, right? So what you're saying is, I talk to my iron companion about Socrates, but I get nothing in return. I don't see my reflection. I like her, I just don't see my reflection. Is there a way I can pull her up? Your problem is not so much about your companion. Your problem is you talk, you don't see your own reflection. It's about when you're with her, you feel alone. And the question is, what do you want to do with this? If ultimately the beginning, most of the middle, and the end has to do with you being alone, then the question is, you want to talk to who exactly? And about what? Companionship. I'm going to give you a very biased way of looking at this. Julian, right? Let's just say you're 20. What does life need? Money, right? Sex, right? House, right? Companionship that turns this into a home, right? And children. Now, you're not going to have children because you like them. I assure you. You're going to have children for one single reason. If you have any intelligence about you, they are going to be the ones who will take you to Kaiser. They're your cane. They're your saving. They will do things for you, which means that you have to treat them right. If you want them to be useful later in life, you got to treat them right. Now, let's say you want to get to gold. Let's say you want to be the next Socrates, let's just say, or Jesus Christ. See, you need this because you need to pay rent. And you need a good amount of brain space to simply have a love affair with ideas. You don't want money to get in the way. You don't love money, you love ideas, but you work for money so it can free you to play with ideas. You have a companion. You want to like him, fine. You want to love him, fine. But you have it because of this, and because of companionship, and ultimately because of this. So you're not suffering from loneliness. You're not suffering from depression. You do all of this stuff so you can have 5 hours of free time. So you can sit and be productive. Do not romanticize life. There is nothing about life that is there to kind of make you feel good. You need to, it's kind of like Rock and his chessboard. It's about playing chess. Move your pieces the right way. Even if you find a man or a woman who's in the gold stage, once, if you're a hetero, let's say you're with this woman and there comes a point where she says, I want a child. Once children come into play, everything about your life will change. It's something my brother and I talk about, which is our parents really never educated us about what marriage is, what children do to your life, what old age is, and what old age does to you mentally, what sickness is, what it does to you, your perspective and perception of things. It's good to find someone who understands you. But when you come to a place where you want to have a family, it's no longer about understanding. She won't even care about ideas anymore. It's about protecting the nest. And then you'll really feel alone. Go ahead.
That you talked about how much life changes after children. Would it be better to better in silver sleep?
No one is prepared for kids. Look, first, women are biologically condemned because they're kind of like this oven. And there comes a point where the woman's body screams. Not all of them, there are always exceptions, but for the most part, it's like your body. It just needs to be active. We are condemned by our body. Why? Because once in a while you say, I just don't want to lay in bed anymore. I want to go for a walk. I want to run. I want to get some exercise. So there is a good amount of romanticization in parenthood, and there is nothing to be romanticized about, and I'll tell you why. Consider all the great philosophers or thinkers who have ever come before us. They haven't really said very many nice things about life. They haven't said very many nice things about human beings. And now the question is, do you want to have a child instinctually, or do you want to have a child reflectively? Instinctually means you just want to be a father. It's been in your family's tradition, you want to be. If you're a woman, my body screams for a child, I want to have a child. Reflectively means this. You kind of look at your environment. You look at your own life experiences. Say, okay, what exactly have I done? Has life been clear for me for the most part, or has it been quite confusing? Do I want to bring another person, and then watch them go through all of the stuff? Do I have the time and the resources to train this kid properly? Is my son going to be like the prodigal son? In other words, I'll keep giving, they won't listen. Eventually I will die, they will go out there, mess everything up, they will come back home, they may not even be at home. Do you want to put another human being through this crisis? Now that's reflective. Now, if you think you have the proper resources, do you have a house? Let's say you want to buy a house. The first thing you need to do is have a down payment. Now, you can have a down payment in two ways. Either someone in your family has died and has left you like $250,000, where you can put as down payment, or you have slowly saved money. Now, none of us in our family just gives us a lump sum of money. So when you do save, it means that you spend less, you become very, very frugal, and you're goal-oriented. You make money to buy a house, not to waste it. Now, just because you have a down payment, that's not sufficient, because every month you need to pay a mortgage, which means you need to have a stable job. You're not going to get fired every goddamn day. Because what happens if you are late on your mortgage, the bank will come in, take your house away from you, and you're not going to get a refund for your $250,000 down payment. Okay? Now, what happens if you want to have a stable job? It means every time your boss comes there, you kiss his ass. And whenever you begin to kiss someone's ass that you don't like, part of your authenticity, integrity, creativity goes away. And you have to be okay with that. Because you need the money for the house. It houses your companion. It houses your kids. It houses your parents. Look at kids in the same way. Let's say you're healthy. You go inside a woman. She gets pregnant. You're a father now. That's the down payment. How do you keep the relationship alive? How do you not become frustrated, angry? And like any parent, we love our kids. Our kids live in society. Now the question is, do you like what society is giving you? Do you like what society is giving to your kids? I went to pick up my niece. She's very young, 5 or 6, from school the other day in Roseville. There was this 10-year-old who was wearing a very, very, very short skirt with no underwear. Now that's a piece of advertisement. Now the question is my niece going to follow suit? Or is she going to be different? Should she want to follow this other girl? As a parent, what are you going to do? You're going to take her out of school? You're going to punish her? If so, how? You can't fight the system. It's far too big. And all of a sudden you realize now you have emotions, now you have agendas you never had before. It's okay. You'll understand. All right. Well, listen, have a nice day. We'll talk some more on Wednesday. Yeah, why don't we? We don't?
No, another class is canceled. I didn't know if it was a school-wide thing.
Charles, can you check? Maybe it's a